Back in 2012, when the movie Prometheus came out, there was a decent bit of confusion surrounding the movie, as it wasn't entirely made clear to a lot of people that this was indeed going to be pretty much a prequel to the Alien franchise. Then throw in the fact that Prometheus itself is a little bit of a different kind of movie, whether you knew that it was supposed to be a part of the Alien franchise, or if you thought it was basically its own new IP, I think a lot of people went out of that movie feeling that it wasn't exactly what they expected it to be. One thing it definitely did do well though was give people a lot of different aspects to speculate about and overall expand the lore of the Alien franchise and basically the universe that these movies take place within. And it's that particular aspect that I think Alien Covenant set out to do, expand the lore of the Alien movie franchise. They definitely did that in this movie. As for the movie itself, I think a lot of people are probably going to receive this with a decent bit of hit and miss. But without getting too deep in the lore and what they did to expand that entire aspect of this, because that's probably a different set of videos for a different day, I wanted to talk about the movie itself and how it sort of stands on its own as a singular feature film. And so to that aspect, this film, in my opinion, is just decent. It has a handful of problems with it amid a decent bit of expansion of this lore of the Alien franchise. But among those problems, this movie starts incredibly slow, with almost no emotional attachment to any of the characters or any of the situations surrounding them. Throughout the first 45 minutes of the movie, there is so much that could have just been sped up with how they presented it, or tweaked to actually add some connection to the story and the characters, or just outright omitted to where throughout that first little while, it kind of lulls you to sleep in a big way. From there, things do escalate though, and they escalate fairly quickly. There's a good sequence with a lot of action, but it doesn't last all that long, and it's like right after that, the movie sort of lays down to take a nap and kind of lulls you back to sleep. Now, it's during this part of the movie that they expand on the lore in a whole bunch of ways, and I think in a lot of ways this is maybe a flaw of this movie, that they set you up to sort of be expecting something else. You're waiting for something else to happen, and this is where they sneak in a lot of the really intriguing aspects of the film that are going to get people talking, that are going to expand on the universe and sort of explain these origins of certain things that a lot of people are intrigued to know. And it's to that point that I think this movie, to a pretty decent degree, has a bit of an identity crisis. It's got a lot of sci-fi horror aspects. It's got a lot of mystery aspects to it. And it even at times tries to be a little bit of a slasher film, to where it seems like along the way of making this movie, they had the idea of it being each of these things, but they didn't really blend them together in a way that feels natural. As is going to be the case with a lot of movies like this, along the way there's going to have to be things that go horribly wrong that puts the characters in the situations that they're in. In this movie, there was one character that just made a series of bafflingly stupid decisions that led to things going horribly wrong, and I felt like there was zero rationale behind it, to where it was like, you can't possibly be doing this. What is your motivation here other than to just make a stupid decision to advance this particular point of the plot? I don't want to give too many specifics in this video so as to avoid spoilers, but I will say that in regards to a lot of the rising tension and things going wrong, there was one thing that this movie did that just bothered me so bad. They have one character who's trying to defend themselves, basically, that slips on a pile of blood on the floor and falls and hurts themselves. And then, like a minute later, another character does the exact same thing. They used a little pile of blood that was very obviously visible on a white floor that two different characters slipped on to put them in a more difficult situation. It was one of those ones where when it happens, you're like, really? 2 times? How? And I'll just say that my last complaint of this movie is that I felt the CG animations they did with the aliens themselves was pretty close to dog shit. On the whole, among the various different types of movies that this movie tries to be, I felt like it fit the best into the sort of mystery type of genre, where we have a situation, we have a character, and we're not quite sure what their motives are initially. That becomes clear as the movie goes on, and along the way does a great job of expanding the lore of the Alien franchise, to where I think longtime fans of the series are going to probably enjoy that aspect as to what they did with this particular particular character and how they played a role in the iconic aliens that people have come to know throughout the series. I also think that its ties to Prometheus, particularly with the aspect of Peter Weyland being fascinated and obsessed with the idea of finding and meeting the creators of mankind, I think it does a good job of following up on that with the characters that are still involved in the story. Overall, to put it pretty simply, what I felt about Alien Covenant is that I really, really like what they're doing to expand the lore of the overall Alien movie franchise. I just felt like they could have done a better job with the rest of the movie attached to that lore expansion. But anyway, those are just my thoughts on Alien Covenant. I would love to know what other people thought about this movie, or where you think the next expansion of this backstory of everything is going to go. So if you have any thoughts on those, please leave them in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, you know I always appreciate that like button. But above all else, everybody, thank you so much for watching.